Well, thank you for asking that and saying that. And I love any time a movie feels like it has some kind of emotional reality despite kind of logic, because as an actor, you're kind of like trying to evoke some kind of unconscious feelings. But oftentimes you're doing it in movies that really require you to kind of like stick with the plot line or stick with a certain joke. And so you can feel a little bit like, oh, it's not exactly what I feel comfortable doing. And when I read this movie, it just read to me like somebody had transcribed a nightmare that they had. It just felt like a fever dream of a movie. I got to be in two other movies like that. One was The Double by Richard Ayoade, and one was The Art of Self-Defense by Riley Stearns. And both of those movies, I had the exact same reaction. When I read it, I just thought, this is a gift. To be able to act in a part like this, it's a gift. Because when you go to acting school, you study all of these extreme emotions, and you're tasked with playing, characters, like in Streetcar Named Desire when you're 16 years old, and then you get out and you're auditioning for kind of comedies or commercials or ads or whatever, and then doing something like this is like, yes, this is exactly what I feel comfortable doing. This is what I'm most familiar with, and this is where I feel like I can excel the most. So even though the role, I guess, maybe seems like, more challenging or darker or deeper than what I normally get to do, it was actually the most kind of familiar process that I'm comfortable with. Adrien and I actually worked together in 2002 on a movie, The Village by M. Night Shyamalan, and I had one line in it, and he was like the lead, and I didn't think he would remember me from it because, again, he was like the main part, and I had one line. My character's name was Boy on Stump because I stood on a stump, and my grandma saw the movie and then called me and said she'd seen the wrong movie because I wasn't in it, and so I didn't think he would remember me, just like my grandma didn't remember me. And he did, and he was so gracious to me. And I remember feeling so intimidated by him because when we had worked together, he was like the most famous actor in the world. And I thought, like, my God, just to be on set with this guy is so cool and special. They had seated me next to him in some group scenes, which was exciting. And so like to be working like eye to eye with him was like just in some ways some like kind of childhood dream come true. And then he has a very unusual presence as an individual, this kind of like very engaging kind of warmth. And so for me, playing this part against him, playing that part was so perfect because he's like a cult leader, kind of drawing this very vulnerable person who I play into his cult. And, Adrien just naturally has this kind of warm, inviting, and intense personality. And so it was like, I have to say, it was just like this incredibly seamless transition from talking to him on set to being kind of brought in by his spell in the movie. Yes, I mean, the movie, my character is like questioning his sexuality throughout the movie, and then finally, like during like a climax of the movie, kind of like finally engages with somebody in that way. And it was this very strange thing because I'm straight and I didn't really understand that experience. So it required me to like understand what that experience is like, even physically like. And then we worked with this amazing intimacy coordinator, which is like a new thing in movies. And thank God it exists because they came in at just the right time. Because me and the other actor, Salu, who's wonderful, really amazing actor and really kind of like open to anything, including the stuff we had to do in the movie. We're basically just like talking through what the experience of like, sex with another man on camera is like, and then adding to the fact that it takes place in a factory, and then adding another thing, which is that it takes place during a kind of very violent altercation. Like, what's that all like? And so this was like the proverbial scene circled on my calendar, of like something to kind of think about, worry about, and prepare for. And it just ended up being this technical thing more than anything really cathartic, more technical because you're trying to do this thing with another person and not hurt that other person, and the things that were kind of more emotionally cathartic were like, these scenes were kind of like I'm speaking out in this kind of cult for the very first time. And these were like more emotionally cathartic, but I'm comfortable with those because that's the thing I've trained to do, so, but the sexual stuff is not the thing that I've been trained to do. Yes. I mean, I was told to slow down a lot, which happened in another movie made by Kelly Reichardt, who really likes this kind of slow pace. And so it was constantly just slow down, slow down. And then with this movie, it was I had recorded people who were from this area and we're kind of like gym guys. And so was listening to them before every take. I had voice memos on my phone of the way some people who are similar to Ralphie would speak. And so I would just hear them. I would say the words, say the words, say the words, and put my phone down, and we would go, so that I was into this cadence. And I would say these phrases so frequently that if you saw the dailies of the movie, of the raw footage of the movie, you would see that before every scene, I'm just have this strange mantra of saying stuff and getting into the spirit, getting into the emotion, and getting into the voice of the character based on recordings I had done. No, it's my favorite thing in the world. Really, as an actor, the things that are most difficult are the things that are very similar to you, because you're like so self-aware. I quite admire people sometimes, actors who aren't even lauded that much, who are maybe like on sitcoms where it seems like, oh, the characters are just like them. Like, that is the most difficult thing to do, because when you're studying to be an actor, that's not really what you study. You're studying kind of drama, and you're studying how to kind of like use yourself in a bigger way. And so I find much more challenging to do something that's quite casual, because you suddenly become so self-conscious. You're like, well, actually, I wouldn't say it exactly like that, so that felt wrong. Or wait, I'm actually not feeling this exact thing right now because I felt it this morning and I'm not feeling it now. So it's like those stuff that's kind of parts that I feel more uncomfortable with. And then a part like this, you're like, yes, the character doesn't want to be alive anymore and thinks that their body is going to explode if they don't beat somebody in the bathroom up. And you're like, yes, I know how to do that. You're feeling all of the rage that you were trained to feel, that you've worked on feeling, and you're putting it into this role. And so this feels in some ways more natural, even though I would say to audiences, it looks like, oh, wow, they're doing something quite different. I wish I could tell audiences, you don't understand, like, this is the comfortable stuff. The hard stuff is like, the kind of natural guy who's trying to, pick the kids up from school or whatever.